everyone, welcome back to the channel. Thanks for tuning in. Today I want to talk to you about the disease called ALS. To be honest with you, I never truly really knew what the disease is until my mother was diagnosed with it. I know a lot of people know about Stephen Hawking and how he was the exception because he had the disease and he actually survived and lived with it for many years as compared to others. Normally, the usual amount of time you have after you've been diagnosed is actually 1 to 2 years before you actually die. There is no cure for this disease and there's only few treatments, and these treatments are not even 100% foolproof that it works, and it's just to prolong your time to live. It's a horrible disease. It's super rare, especially in Malaysia. There is no exposure, there is no ALS support group, no information. It's super rare in Malaysia and it's not well known. People just don't have any idea what it is. So here I am. I'm just gonna talk to you about it, what I know, what I've experienced. I have written a blog post about it, but today I just decided I'll just talk to you here on my video, on my channel, so that we can just have an open discussion and you can actually have some knowledge about what this disease really is, okay? Okay, so let's open up my laptop here. So ALS is short for amyotrophic lateral sclerosis, okay? Is a progressive nervous system disease that affects nerve cells in the brain and spinal cord, causing loss of muscle control. So basically, it's a disease that attacks your brain and your nerve cells and your spinal cord that controls your muscles, that transmits the neurons from your brain to your spinal cord to your body, that tells which body parts to move, which muscle to move, for every part of it, like from walking to talking to swallowing to everything. This disease just kind of attacks those things. They attack the neurons, they attack the receivers, the transmitters, they just attack all these central nervous system that controls your body, that makes you lose control of movement of your body. ALS is often called Lou Gehrig's disease. So Lou Gehrig is this famous baseball player who got it early on in the days. So we have the famous names that have it. So there's Lou Gehrig, that's why it's called the Lou Gehrig's disease. And then Stephen Hawking got it as well when he was really young. There's a movie about it. You should watch it. It's a really good movie. What is it called? Let's see. It's a Stephen Hawking movie. I watched it many times. Theory of Everything. It's a really good movie. It was really well played. I liked it. Okay. This is some history to it. In 1869, Jean-Martin Charcot first diagnosed the disease and began to use the term amyotrophic lateral sclerosis in 1874. The disease is also known as Lou Gehrig's disease in the US, Charcot's disease in France, and motor neuron disease in UK, MND. So there's 3 names basically. There's 2 types of ALS. One is the sporadic ALS, which is the most common because it affects up to 95% of people. Sporadic means it happens sometimes without a clear cause. And then the familial ALS, which is a FALS, runs in families. About 5 to 10% of people with ALS have this type, which are caused by changes to a gene. So this is information from Singapore. At least there's still some community and someone who shares about it in Singapore. Malaysia is still in the dark when it comes to this disease. Up to 500 adults in Singapore at any one time. Every year, 30 to 50 new cases will be diagnosed. It's super rare still, but it exists. I'll talk to you about how my mom was diagnosed in a bit. Kills a third of people within a year and more than half within 2 years. So as I said before, the lifespan after you have been diagnosed is really just 1 to 2 years. It's horrible. Types of motor neuron disease. There's the ALS, which is the most common type, with symptoms starting in the hands and feet. Muscles tend to become stiff and weak. So it starts with the hands and feet. So that's pretty much what happened to Stephen Hawking if you watch Theory of Everything. And then there's the second type of ALS, which is the progressive bulbar palsy. Muscles used for talking, chewing, and swallowing are affected first. And this sounds horrible, and this is what happened to my mom. She had the progressive bulbar palsy because that's how we started to look at her. We thought she had a stroke because one day she woke up and she just started slurring as she was talking. She had speech slur. We couldn't understand her fully. She couldn't form her words because her tongue was kind of just heavy. We weren't sure what happened. We thought it was a stroke. She went to see a stroke specialist and he said, no, you did not have a stroke. She's healthy. And she went through so many tests all over the good hospitals in Kuala Lumpur, and in the end she ended up going to Thailand. She went to Bangkok, and that's when they finally found out what was wrong with her. They did a test. The test itself, I'm gonna have to tell you how painful it is, because they actually send shock signals, electric signals, to test if the neurons are accepted at those receiving points. That's the only way to know if someone actually has ALS. One more uncommon form of MND, and it's the progressive muscular atrophy. Small muscles of hands and feet are affected, but the muscles are not stiff. So I'm not really sure what this means, but it's just another form of MND. There's another rare type of MND, and it mainly causes weakness in the leg muscles. So it's primary lateral sclerosis, where it only starts at the leg muscles. Okay, so that's rare. Good to know. So let me talk to you about how patients get tested for this. So this is what happens, what my mom had to go through for her to be confirmed and diagnosed with ALS. The test is called electromyogram, EMG. Your doctor inserts a needle electrode through your skin into various muscles. The test evaluates the electrical activity of your muscles when they contract and when they're at rest. Abnormalities in muscles seen in an EMG can help doctors diagnose or rule out ALS. Now, let's talk about the risk factors. The risk of getting this disease. Heredity. 5 to 10% of the people with ALS inherited it, familial ALS. So it's possible to inherit this. Their children have a 50-50 chance of developing the disease. So my mom had it. That means I have a 50% of getting this disease. It's really scary, and I'm sure my siblings are just as scared. Age. ALS risk increases with age, and it's most common between the ages 40 and the mid-60s. My mother was 61 when she passed away, and she was diagnosed, that means when she was 60, around 60. Before the age of 65, slightly more men than women develop ALS. So more men get it, apparently. Genetics. Some studies examining the entire human genome found many similarities in the genetic variations of people with familial ALS and some people with non-inherited ALS. These genetic variations might make people more susceptible to ALS. And there's environmental factors as well that could trigger ALS. Smoking, environmental toxin exposure, military service. So there's a lot of people who went to war, who was in the military, are most likely to get this. And environmental toxin exposure. It could be at home, could be at the workplace, could be where you are, could be something you eat a lot. So these things could trigger ALS. The thing about when ALS is triggered is that once it's triggered, you can't reverse it. That's why it's called progressive, because it will keep progressing until to the point you really lose complete control of the muscles of your body. That's basically the basics of ALS I've shared with you. Now I'm gonna talk to you about my own experience, okay? So around the year 2018, when we all discovered that was her diagnosed, when she came back from the hospital in Bangkok, it was truly like a death sentence. It's like she knew she had something that had no cure, and we knew it as well. And it was completely depressing. and shocking, and we were sad, and we were trying to keep looking at other alternatives. I was in denial. I was like, no, you do not have this. You probably have something else. Let's not rule out other diseases. I was really in denial about that. I don't know if you watch this series called Empire. It's a really good series. In the beginning of the series, that's what Lucius Lyon had. But he was misdiagnosed. He thought he was gonna die, but he was misdiagnosed, and he had this other disease which had the same symptoms, and I was hoping it was the same story for my mom. Like, of course, you're in that denial phase and you don't want to accept it. So yeah, we were just going through this roller coaster. We're having this nightmare where we don't want to accept that. We were basically grieving already, knowing that we were going to lose my mom. Since that day on, everything just kind of went like pretty crazy, because she's gonna, try to find the treatments that are available to prolong, to try and stop this disease and to try and slow it down because it's progressive. Her husband found a clinic in Moscow, an ALS clinic that does treatments for ALS. So they flew there, they worked on it. They had this, there's this one medicine that's taken by patients of ALS. It's called Riluzole, and it's a medication used to treat ALS. Delays the onset of ventilator dependence or tracheostomy in some people, and may increase survival by 2 to 3 months. 2 to 3 months. It's in tablet form, but it's available in liquid form as well. You pay so much money for this medicine that could maybe help you and increase your time for 2 to 3 months from the day you've been diagnosed. She was taking this, I remember. There were also a lot of people who were offering stem cells, fake stem cells, and fake ways to recover from the disease, fake cures. It was upsetting for me, obviously, and everyone else around her, of course. And she would always give them the benefit of the doubt. That's the thing about my mom. She was always so kind and letting people give it a shot, even though knowing that they're all just cons, trying to make a buck from someone who's suffering from a disease. We have people who also didn't understand the disease. Obviously, it's not their fault because, it's super rare and there's no awareness in Malaysia. So they'll be like, oh, why does she have to go to Moscow to get a treatment? There's so many good hospitals in Malaysia. Yeah, the Malaysian hospitals that could not even diagnose her with the disease. How can they even give her the treatment? So no, it's not like cancer. It's not like any other disease. It's a motor neuron disease. There's no cure. There's very little treatment. So yeah, she had to go to other places. So she went to Moscow a few times. They gave her the Riluzole. They gave her some other stuff. They gave her speech therapy. Next, she went to Beijing to get stem cells injected into her spine. She did it twice, I think, and it was really, really painful and not cheap. Then after those treatments and everything, at the same time, it was the time I moved to Paris. I decided that I'm not going to stay in Malaysia anymore, so I moved to Paris, and she came to visit me, and that was her final trip. She was coughing too much. The first thing that affected her was her speech, and then it moved on to her swallowing. She couldn't chew and swallow, so she started to lose weight, a lot of weight, and with the loss of weight, it made it harder and made it more tough for her body to fight the failure of the neurons in her muscles and stuff. So with the fact that she didn't want to be on ventilator, she didn't want any assist like that, she didn't want a tube in her stomach to feed her, so she just wanted to live her life the best she could. without all this invasive kind of treatments. She wanted to keep on walking, driving, dancing, eating, whatever she wanted, and sadly, because she couldn't chew her food and swallow well, some of the food particles have ended up in her chest, and that's what caused the infection, pneumonia, and that's how she ended up in the hospital in Paris. And that's when she started to have difficulty breathing, and then she passed away when she was having lack of oxygen to her brain. She could still move, but until the end, she could still walk, she could still move her hands and everything. So there was no paralysis yet to the moment that she passed away. It was the lungs that gave out because there was no oxygen, not enough oxygen in her brain. To be honest, I was glad that she was not suffering anymore, because obviously the body that she was in just couldn't function anymore. Instead of trying to make her stay longer and suffer, I would rather her move on. It was too soon. A lot of people prefer to have their moms around until later. I would have loved for her to be there at my wedding, to be around, to be able to spend time together. But you know, this is life, and you don't know how long you have. You don't know how long you have with people. So yeah, you just treasure the memories, treasure the people who are still there around you. She was a very adventurous person. We could even go hiking with her and go look for waterfalls with her, and she would go even like, we sometimes go out fishing in the middle of the sea. She even goes night fishing in a big boat to go catch squids at night. That was pretty cool. Yeah, so she's just really an adventurous person. She travels a lot and she makes friends. She can make friends with anyone who comes by to the resort. She would instantly just make friends with them and share her knowledge. She loves to study about health, about religion, about faith, about a lot of things. She reads a lot, and so she would share all this information with people, and she's so interested in food, good food, superfoods and super vitamins and stuff like that. So she would even share that she would meet this person or these people like on the very day. She's like, hey, you know what, this oil is better than the normal oil. Here, have this oil, this coconut oil. Oh, and we would go to Vietnam a lot together, and she would buy this coffee, and she'd be like, oh, here, have a coffee, like, you know, just random people. And she was just so kind. She was an amazing woman who was super adventurous, and I really missed her. And I just wish I had more time with her, and I wish I had more videos of her. And you know, that's the first thing that she lost, which is a speech. So it's really rare to find videos of her talking and stuff. So it's really, really sad. But she'll always be on my mind, in my heart, in spirit. She'll always continue to inspire me. So that's it, guys. That's the story of ALS. I hope you know now a little bit about it and understand what we had to go through as a family, and how there is no awareness, there is no true diagnosis or even a treatment facility in Malaysia for this disease, because it's super rare. But I'm sure there's a few people who were diagnosed or not diagnosed who has it, and I've not even been diagnosed because my mother had to go to Thailand to be diagnosed. So you can see how difficult it is, and even for us as a family, we didn't have any support. We didn't know what to do as a family, and we just needed a lot of support, and we didn't have it. Just telling you my side of the story, and I hope you like this video. If you do, please give it a like, and I appreciate you for even watching this video, and leave a subscribe as well if you haven't subscribed already, and click on the notification bell for every video that I post. You'll be notified. Thanks a lot, guys. Really, I really appreciate you even just dropping by to this channel. Comment down below if you want to ask me any questions, and if you want to say anything, I'm here and I will respond to them, I promise. So alright, I'll see you guys. Love you.